German tank commanders mocked the Sherman. They mocked its thin armor. They mocked its gasoline engine. They mocked its tendency to catch fire. But most of all, they mocked its strange little side escape doors, a feature they believed only a cowardly army would design. A Sherman had doors. A Panther had armor. A Tiger had fear. To German tank crews, the Sherman was a joke, a flamethrower waiting to happen, a coffin that burned at the slightest hit. They even had a nickname for it, Ronson, because, they said, it lights the first time, every time. But in September 1944, in the fog-covered fields of Lorraine, during the desperate, swirling tank Battle of Arracourt, those stupid American doors would save an entire crew from death, allow them to rejoin the fight, and lead them to destroy the very Panthers that set their Sherman ablaze. This is the forgotten true story of Lieutenant Don McCall and his crew, the men who proved that sometimes, a feature mocked by the enemy, is the reason you live long enough to win. This is Shadow of War, where forgotten legends rise again. Autumn, 1944, the German army is bleeding, pushed back across France. But the Wehrmacht is not finished, not yet. Hitler orders a massive counterattack near the town of Arracourt, hoping to break through American lines, regain lost ground, and delay the Allied advance toward Germany. The battlefield is a rolling sea of hills, mist, and farmland. In the early mornings, the fog is so thick that a tank can barely see 10 meters ahead. Perfect terrain for an ambush. Sitting directly in the path of the German assault is the U.S. 4th Armored Division, commanded by General John S. Wood, but made legendary by the countless tank crews who learned to move, fight, and shoot faster than anyone else in the theater. One of those crews served under a young lieutenant named Don McCall. McCall was not tall, not loud, not a swaggering cowboy-like tanker. He was quiet, focused, methodical, but deadly accurate behind the guns of a Sherman. His crew respected him completely. They called him Mac. They trusted him with their lives. And on the morning of September 19th, that trust would be tested in the most brutal way imaginable. The fog that day was suffocating. White mist clung to the earth like a blanket. Visibility was nothing. Sound was everything. Shermans crawled forward through the haze, their commanders peering through slits and periscopes, straining to hear engines, tracks, anything. Somewhere in that fog were German Panthers, heavier, better armored, longer gunned, and deadly at long range. But the Panthers had a weakness. They could not see. They relied on sight. And in this fog, their advantage vanished. McCall's Sherman eased forward, engine rumbling low. The crew whispered inside the metal coffin, "Where the hell are they?" "Quiet, listen, keep the gun ready." And then, a sound, a faint clicking, metal on metal, tracks, but not theirs. Before McCall could react, the fog split open with a flash of orange fire. A German Panther, barely 120 yards away, fired directly into McCall's Sherman. The shell punched through the armor as if it were foil. The impact wasn't loud. It was catastrophic. The Sherman erupted into flames. Fuel lines burst, oil ignited, smoke filled the turret. Heat slammed into their faces. The inside glowed with blinding orange light. The crew had only one choice: escape. But the turret was jammed. The top hatch was blocked by debris. The flames were crawling upward. In a Tiger or a Panther, this was the end. Crewmen burned alive long before they could unbolt a hatch or crawl through a turret ring. But McCall's Sherman had something else. Too small, strange, much mocked side escape doors built into the hull. German crews laughed at them. American crews barely talked about them. Tank analysts called them questionable engineering. But in that moment, those side doors were the only path between life and death. "Get out, McCall shouted. The loader kicked the door open, heat blasting into his face, and one by one, the crew dropped into the mud, just seconds before the tank became a roaring fireball. They coughed, stumbled, eyes burning from smoke. Behind them, the Sherman that had been their home was now a torch lighting the fog. But they were alive, breathing, standing, and McCall wasn't done. Most crews would retreat. Survivors would be evacuated. Officers would write them off as combat losses. But the battlefield was still roaring around them, and someone had just tried to kill them. A maintenance sergeant saw the men running and shouted over the chaos, "We got a spare Sherman. Take it." McCall didn't hesitate. They threw themselves into the second tank, fired up the engine, and roared straight back into the fight. Minutes later, they reached the ridge. A Panther appeared through the fog, the same Panther that had destroyed their tank. This time, McCall was faster. He maneuvered the Sherman into a side angle, ordered the gunner to fire, and the American 75mm cannon spoke thunder. The Panther jerked, stopped, burned. The crew cheered, their fear swallowed by adrenaline and rage. But something else happened. More Panthers emerged from the fog. The Germans were attacking in mass, hoping to break the American line. But McCall's crew, reborn from a fireball, was now fighting with something to prove. They fired, moved, fired again. The second Panther fell, its turret blown open. A third tried to flank. The Sherman cut it off and destroyed it. McCall's crew, alive only because of the stupid side doors, destroyed the tanks that tried to kill them. All across Arracourt, this same miracle repeated itself. Shermans, written off as inferior, outmaneuvered Panthers and Tigers in the fog and rolling hills. German commanders were stunned. American tankers became legends, and the side doors, the ones that were mocked. After Arracourt, nobody laughed anymore. Those doors had saved lives far beyond what the designers ever imagined. By the end of the battle, the U.S. 4th Armored Division destroyed over 80 German tanks while losing only 25 of their own. A victory historians still call one of the most astonishing armored performances of the entire war. And McCall's crew, they survived the war. They lived full lives. And they never forgot the day their tank burned around them yet gave them one last gift. A door, a way out, a second chance, the chance to keep fighting and win. German commanders mocked the Sherman's stupid side doors, but those doors became the reason one American tank crew escaped a fireball, recruited another Sherman in minutes, and destroyed the Panthers that hit them. Sometimes the feature everyone mocks becomes the feature that changes a battle. This is Shadow of War.